Midnight Muses here. I know I said that I was going to be doing a makeup video today, but just because of the way that my appointments were and because it's Canada winter and we lose light very, very quickly, I didn't have the time to do a tutorial. If you do like this look that I have here, it's kind of like blue and teal, it was a little bit dark. Just leave me a comment down below and I will do a tutorial with it next week. But I thought that I would do something a little bit different. Molly Burke, who is a bigger, a very huge YouTuber here, she's essentially known as the blind girl on YouTube. She did a really cool video last night that was the 10 things that I like about being blind. And I thought that that was really amazing because that was taking what most people look at as a horrible situation and showing you the positives of it. And so I thought that I would do the 10 things that I love about having mental illness, which is, I know, going to be a controversial subject, just as for her it was with her being blind, but I think no one really ever talks about the positives of it. It's all about recovery, recovery, recovery. What can you do to get better? What can you do to this? What can you do to do that? To like essentially pretend like it doesn't exist. But the reality is, for a lot of us, myself included, there is no cure for what I have. There isn't even any known treatment for most of what I have. The only thing that I can really like actively treat is my agoraphobia with exposure therapy. Everything else is just kind of a like trial and error to see what works and what doesn't, but be aware you're going to have this for the rest of your life. This is what you were born with. It's developed to this degree, and the best you can do is learn how to manage it. So with managing, you do there, and I've been saying this for years. There are things that I love about having mental illness, which isn't to say that, you know, I love that I'm living off the government. I hate that. I really, really hate that. I mean it in other aspects. And so I'm going to talk about those things because people don't talk about them, but I think people need hope. Because I think that for the other people out there like me who have an incurable illness, that there has to be some positives to look at. There has to be more than just the, oh, well, learn to not let this take control of you or that could take control of you. Look at the positives of what you also have with it. So I actually made a list. As we all know, I am prone to just randomly rambling and going off topics, but I really, really care about this. This is such an important thing to me. And as I said, I have said it for years, but I've never really talked about exactly what it is that I love about my mental illness. I've done little snippets, and usually it's in retaliation of somebody criticizing me or making a snide or rude remark about my mental illness and me coming back to them and being like, well, I like it because I can do this and you can't because you're normal. So I don't want to do that. I don't want this to be crass or rude or like an attack on normal people, because there are regular people out there that can do these things as well. It's just, for me, I have noticed that my mental illness kind of enhances these good qualities in myself. So the first one is the way that I see the world and everything in it. And I mean, yes, I'm an artist, so like people can argue, well, you're an artist, that's why you see things differently. And it's like, but you know what? Look up history. Has there ever been an artist to ever exist that did not suffer from some kind of mental illness? Really? Because to paint things and do the things that we do see things differently, which means that there is something a little bit wiry going on up here that's not like everybody else. And there usually is some kind of sickness or madness that goes along with it. For example, my favorite painter of all time is Van Gogh, who was famous for how bad his depression was, and people still talk about what he may or may not have had, because, you know, obviously he lived long before diagnosing was a thing. And he did, you know, end his life in suicide. It took him 3 days, but he did it. But he, at the same time, he made this beautiful, amazing art. And actually that's something that, I think the reason why I love his work so much, because I know he's a very popular painter, but what I love so much about his work, and it's funny, an episode of Doctor Who described it perfectly, was that despite all the pain that he was feeling, he created these works of art that were so bright and colorful and beautiful and had this like, almost like this hope to it. It was lovely. And my art, while being not nearly as good and on a completely different spectrum, is similar in that I tend to make paintings that are very bright and very happy and very colorful and don't reflect what I'm feeling inside at all. It's like all those good things that I'm desperately searching for, that's what comes out in my art. My art is very rarely dark and gloomy. But yeah, but having mental illness kind of gives me that perspective, because I think when you have those moods where you're so down and everything's so horrible, but you also get these moments of brightness, and it just changes how you see things. And you know, one person will see a flower and think, oh, that's a nice flower, but I'll just, you know, I just see more detail or something. I react differently, and I don't think that I would react that way if I didn't have a disorder in my brain. Anyways, number 2 is how much I appreciate the loved ones in my life. I actually think I may have put this in here twice in different wording, but it's when you have mental illness, especially when you have bad mental illness, or like me, are a survivor of suicide, you really appreciate the people that stick around for you, that have seen you at your worst and haven't left you behind. Because I've had people leave me behind. I've had people be like, you know what, I'm sorry, this is too much, I can't do it. And that's fine. I hold no anger or grudges. It's just, you really, really appreciate the people that have stuck around and been there for you through your worst and through your best. And it's an appreciation that I think, you know, I know a lot of other people that are like, oh, I have all these friends or whatever, but they're not like, they're more like acquaintances, you know, like they hang out, but you know, they don't really care. They don't really keep in touch. And it's just, it's a different thing. Whereas like every person that I have in my life that is special to me, like they hold such a huge piece of my heart, and I appreciate every single one of them so much, that if like anything ever happens to anyone, I'm always like, okay, well, what can we do to help make this better? And it's not that I'm trying to be like, oh, the good friend. It's they've helped me so much that there is never anything that I will ever be able to do to repay my friends and my family for not shutting me out when I've needed them. And I really, really appreciate that. And I said that is something that comes along with my mental illness, because I have more, one thing you learn when you get diagnosed with most mental illnesses, not just with mine, is that we feel things more than other people. So when I say that I really, really like appreciate my loved ones and really, really love them, like it's hard to explain, because it's like this overwhelming emotion that, like, when I think about them, I literally feel my heart swelling. And it's because we do have this kind of override of emotion, and everyone always focuses on the negative, but sometimes it is good, because sometimes we're not feeling an overwhelming of bad emotion. Sometimes we are feeling that overwhelming of just happy emotion and gratefulness for the people in our lives. Anyways, I'm trying to not talk way too much with each point, or this video is going to be like 5 hours long. Number 3, I said how much I appreciate every small thing anyone has ever done for me. And that's very true too. I think people overlook the small things all the time, but like, if my mom brings me a coffee because I'm having a bad day, I will remember that for like months, sometimes years, at that this one time when I was having a really bad time, she just brought me one. Or she'll call us, hey, I'm at Starbucks, you know, let me get you a treat because I know that'll make you feel better, they'll perk you up. Or, hey, you're not having a good time, like the other day I was having a really, really bad night, and I walked down to Max to pick up a pack of cigarettes because I just wanted to walk and try and clear my head, and it wasn't going well. And I just texted Mom and said, hey, can we just go for a drive? And she was there in 2 minutes, picked me up, and we just drove around and sang songs and talked for a little bit. And it wasn't a big thing. It was a very small thing. She literally drove 2 minutes down the street, picked me up, and then we drove for another like maybe 20 minutes before we drove home. But it meant the world to me that she did that, you know. And I've had friends that have essentially, you know, we joke that, oh, that's my room at their house, because they've always made it clear that if I ever need a safe place, I have a safe place there. And like, that's a bigger thing, but it's so, I will never stop saying how thankful and grateful I am for the people that I have in my life right now. And it just comes to everything. Like, even like when my boyfriend's playing his game and he reaches back and grabs my foot just to make sure that I know that he's still thinking about me and he still cares about me. Like, it's just those small little things mean so much to me, and I remember all of them, and I am so grateful for all of them. And it is those small moments more than any of the big things that really get me through the hard times, because it's the small moments that matter the most, because the small moments are what make the big moments. Number 4 is my resourcefulness, which kind of goes along with my number 5, which is being a quick thinker in stressful situations. It's funny, I was talking about this with my cousin last night, actually, who also has her own mental illnesses, and it is true. When you have mental illness, it's like our brains immediately go to the worst case situation and the worst case scenario. But what also happens is we also make plans about how to make the best of that worst case scenario. So we tend to be very quick on our feet when a situation happens. Like we were joking, because I was in Dominican for my friend's wedding quite a few years now. And we were just, you know, traveling around, whatever. We'd gone up a mountain on a cable car, and I was scared to do that as it was, because it's like, I don't like, well, I like heights, but I'm scared of falling. So it's, anyway, too high for me. And in a cable car, not a good idea. Went up because they made me. And then, surprise, surprise, the winds are super high. We can't go down because the cable cars are swinging too much, and they're scared that with the weight that they'll snap. And my brain just went into like, okay, so I'm gonna live on the top of this mountain now. And like, I went through like how I would have to be able to like get a hold of my work to let them know that I'm not coming back, you know, like who I would have to talk to like transfer my, like, I literally, like, by the time we were able to get on that cable car and go home, I had figured out exactly what I would have to do if I had to live there for the rest of my life, because we couldn't get on this cable car, which, yes, is crazy. I'm very well aware of that. That's kind of taking it next level. But point is, it means that, but I do that in every situation. So even like the smaller situations where something unexpected happens, my brain immediately figures out, okay, well, what do we have to do to counteract that so that we can still get through with our day and still have it go relatively smoothly without having everything go out of place. So, and that comes from my mental illness, because again, when you're always thinking about what to do in a worst case situation, you're just, and people who have mental illness, our brains, one of the problems is that it moves so fast. Everything's going so fast, always twirling in there, that yeah, we can come up with solutions to things really, really quickly. So in a crisis, you actually want someone with mental illness around you, unless they're one of the people that can't make it through because they haven't figured that much out yet, which there are some like that. But for the most part, and I'm talking people more like my age, like I'm in my 30s, you know, we've gotten to a point in our mental illness, because we've lived with it for a long enough time, that we don't panic in the situation. We get through the situation and then we panic after the situation. So we're really good to have around in bad cases, because we'll get you through, and we'll get you through a lot, probably better than you maybe could have on your own. So we're good for that. So that's number 4. Number 5. Number 6 is my dedication and drive to do better in all aspects of my life. That is definitely something that I get from having to deal with my mental illness for my life. Is that basically from the time that I was about 17, I made the active decision that I was not going to let my mental illness control me. I was going to control my mental illness. And yes, it is a part of me. It will always be a part of me. And now I accept that. It took me a very long time to accept that. But at the same time, I also very strongly believe that you are responsible for your actions, not your mental illness. And yes, your mental illness makes things difficult, but like, if you hit somebody, you hit somebody. You're borderline, or you're bipolar, or you're manic, whatever. They didn't hit that person, you did. So you have to learn accountability for yourself and for your actions. And with having mental illness, it is a lot more difficult. Like, people, I don't think, really understand how much, like, I call it my brain fire. It just, sometimes it's like you can't think properly. You're just so tunnel visioned on this like one thought or one thing. Or for me, a lot of times when I'm painting, I just can't do anything but that thing. And if I have to do anything but that thing, I can't think properly, and I say stupid things or do stupid things, and it takes a lot of work to try and control that, essentially. But it means that I'm always constantly working on my mindful meditation. And I'm always working on my health, and I'm always working on this, and I'm always researching, new ways to make things better. You're constantly working, you're constantly striving to be better. And what I found with that is that it's moved from not just working on my mental health, but literally working on everything in my life. But it started from wanting to not be controlled by my mental illnesses anymore. And now I work very hard at my health. I work very hard at my art. I work very hard at my cooking, my baking, like as I said, literally every aspect of my life, it's affected because I started putting in the dedication to my mental illness. It's now changed every aspect of my life for the better, and I continue to grow. Number 7 is my art and all of the creative things that I do, which again, I think I spoke about in my first point, is that I don't think that I would be the artist that I am if I didn't have mental illness, just because we don't think about things normally. We don't think about things in necessarily a sane way. We see things so differently. And yeah, so it's like, I really covered in my one point where, you know, there really aren't any artists in history that haven't been known to be crazy in some way or another, or geniuses either. And geniuses and artists tend to run very closely together in terms of the crazy brain situation. So I genuinely believe that I would not be the artist that I am today if I did not have some kind of mental illness, because my mental illness allows me to see things in their darkest and in their brightest. And I do appreciate my ability to see both and to find beauty in both, and to be able to create art from it does so much to just, it helps me so much. For someone who is a self-harmer, my art has really done a lot to help keep me kind of on the straight and narrow in that way, because it's another way of getting out those emotions, which, as I said, I don't really do dark paintings, but I will do other things to let out those bad emotions that I need to. Like, I can't even, my clothing is dark. Like, whenever I make clothing, it is very kind of like dark and grungy and punky and goth like, and that's where I get those like dark bad emotions out, and then I get the good things that I really want to be feeling, or that are overwhelming, because the good emotions can be very overwhelming as well. That's what comes out in the painting. But the point is that it stops me from taking it out of my own body and allows me to do something very productive and essentially very beautiful with it. I also get tattoos, which help a lot, because it's one of those like pain beauty things. And, you know, I've been working on covering up my scars. You can't see them because it's all covered here, but like it's to me, I love the idea that I can put something beautiful on my skin to hide the pain that I've put myself through. I love that so much. Art is A+. It has been what's fueled me and kept me alive for this long. Number 8 is that I always make sure that the people around me know how much I love them. I think that might be a little bit more because I am a survivor of suicide, necessarily, than just having a blanket mental illness. And that is because I have had those darkest moments where I really did think that there was nothing left. I don't like talking about it, because then I got to throw the trigger warning in. So as I said, this can be another video where you don't get details, because this is not the focus. It's supposed to be a positive video. But because I've had those darkest moments, and there's no real way of describing it anyway, what it means is that I know what it feels like to not want to be here anymore, but before you go, you want to make sure that everyone that you love knows that you love them. And even though, you know, I ended up surviving, and I've now, you know, I'm quite thankful for that, and I'm working hard, I still make sure that, you know, if I get off the phone with somebody who's like, I love you, just so you know, like I'm always telling people how much I love them and how I feel about them, because it kind of gives you this like an understanding of your mortality. You know, like nothing is real, nothing lasts forever. I've also lost a lot of people in my life, whether it be from illness, or I have lost a lot of people to suicide as well, or just to other whatever. So you never know when your day is going to come. You never know when their day is going to come. So I always think it's so important to make sure that if you love somebody, tell them you love them. And there is nothing more important than that. Is if you love somebody, make sure they know that you love them, because they might not know, and they may think that they have nothing, and they may give up because they think that they have no one. So let them know. Also, just let them know. Let them know. There's nothing better than hearing about, you know, the good things that someone feels about you. You know, I know with my friend, she was having a really hard time, and I just wrote her a little card just to remind her, like, I know it's winter, and I know you struggle in the winter a lot, but like, I love you. I'm always here for you. And like, if you ever need anything, you know, I'm just a phone call away, and I will drive to you if I have to. Just, but you know, don't forget, you know, you are so loved. And I know that winter's hard, but you are loved. And it made her feel so much better, because it's just, as I said, sometimes you just have to remind people that you're not alone. You have people that love you. You are loved. You are cared for. And it makes far more difference than I think a lot of people realize. Number 9, this definitely goes along with, or no, sorry, number 8. Wait. No, number 9. Number 9, this goes, I think, a little bit more with the fact that I am in my 30s. I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of hospital time. I've done a lot of work on myself. But number 9 is my ability to talk about and teach people about mental illness, which is something that I have over the years really started to enjoy doing more and more and more, because so much awareness is needed. And there is not a lot of it out there. I mean, people think there's a lot of it out there, but then when you hear what they're talking about, it's kind of like, you clearly don't suffer because you don't know what's going on. And like, government funding needs to really be fixed. I'm in a situation right now where I have 1 session left of my therapy, and we are halfway through our progress. And I am someone who very adamantly believes that therapy should not be done forever. Therapy is a purposeful thing where it's like, okay, these are the things I need to work on, you know, and you work with your therapist. They help you deal. They help you find ways to kind of, I don't want to say fix, but they find ways to correct whatever issue it is that you want to work on, so that you can function better and function more easily, and then you move on. And then, you know, something else happens down the road, then yes, you can go back. But like, I firmly believe that therapy should not be a lifelong thing. It should be a temporary thing that you do in spouts as needed, because if you do it all the time, it's not going to work as effectively. It's essentially like, if you take the same dose of the same pill your whole life, it's probably not going to work so well for you after a few years as it did at the very beginning, because your body's gotten so adjusted to it. So it's like that, you know, take it as needed. But the problem with the government is the government thinks that, oh, you should only need a few sessions and you'll be fine, because we've had people that take advantage and go there for 10 years. And it's like, well, you know what? Each person is different. Some people need to go for a lot longer than other people do. But 16 sessions is not enough to cover anything. Doesn't matter if it's sexual abuse. Doesn't matter if it is physical abuse, childhood abuse, dealing with suicidal ideation. It doesn't matter what you are dealing with. 16 sessions is not enough. It is not. It and as I said, like, and when I say that we're halfway through, we're not even halfway through. We have essentially kind of gotten to a point with me where the stuff that we've been trying to do is slowly but surely just starting to kind of like crack and starting to work just a little bit. So like, we're at the point where it's like, okay, we've got to a progress place where if we really dig in now, we should really be able to make some good progress. And we're done. And the problem with that is that now I have to go to another place and see someone new. And they are not going to be the therapist that I'm seeing right now, who is the best therapist that I've ever seen in my entire life. But even if they happen to be great, they're still not going to know the progress that I just did with this person, because they're not going to have that history. So I'm going to have to redo all of that as quickly as I possibly can, because it's like, well, the ice is broken, so it might not take quite as long, but it's still going to take time. And then try and get a little bit more progress through before I'm going to have to jump again to the next option. And it's very frustrating, because people who suffer very severely from mental illness, like myself, do not have a budget to pay anywhere from $100 and $300 per hour to see a therapist. And that's just how it is. And it's really frustrating, because it's like, so what? If you want to have therapy, you have to be rich. Most people that suffer from mental illness, especially, as I said, to me, where they're at the point where they're not even allowed to work, how are we supposed to pay for these sessions? Because you're not paying for them. We have to use the free options, which, don't get me wrong, I love the free options, because I find that the people who do it for free do it because they love it and do it because they care more than the people who charge the most. But they don't give them the time, and they need the time so desperately. So I love talking about mental illness and things that we can do to make it better, and to spread awareness, and you know how everybody really does suffer. They just suffer at different levels and in different ways. But anyways, that's a whole separate video onto itself, because I really can spend hours just on that one topic. And the very last thing on my list is because it's a part of me, and that's okay. And that is probably the most important thing that I could say in this entire video is, you are ill, but it's all right. You will probably never get better, but that's all right. It's the same as if you were to have diabetes. It is a part of who you are, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a lesser human. Why am I out of focus? It doesn't change your value. The fact that you have this invisible illness, that your brain doesn't work properly, it does not change your value. You are just as valuable as anybody else. This is something that you cannot change about yourself. It is something that you can work for. It is something that you can work at to have a better, more enriched life, but you will always have this. And to try and not look at it as a negative thing, just as another part of you, will take you so far into your, I hate using the word recovery, but into your manageability, because most mental illnesses do not have a cure. Some do, some are temporary, but most of them don't. So I'm going to say, if you just accept it as a part of who you are, and then accept it as a part of what makes you uniquely the person that you are, that will go so far to being able to manage and to grow and to have the life that you've always wanted. And it is possible. Anyways, thank you for watching. I know it's been like 3 pretty serious videos this week. I will try and do something a little bit more lighthearted next week. As I said, I saw Molly Burke's video last night and was really inspired to come out with my own version. I will link her video in the description box below. I hope you are having a great time and have a wonderful weekend. All right, bye.